Well, it's Friday, and you all know what that means. That means once again, we're going to be reviewing AEW Rampage featuring some amazing matches. We have, of course, a 12-man tag team match. This was a match that was, in fact, been brought upon by the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. So we're going to see how cohesive they can be. We also got Queen Aminata versus Anna Jay and plenty other matches as well. Then, of course, we have NXT Level Up. So we're going to see who's going to level up at NXT Level Up. But we also got more on New Japan Pro Wrestling with the CML Fantastica Mania as we see the wrestlers from CML making their showcase in Japan. Of course, everybody in Japan are probably having a good time. So we're featuring in this particular event a interfaction tag team tournament. In this is only the first round, but we already have two matches that were announced for this particular one. But, however, first things first, we're going to be reviewing Stardom with, of course, their Korakuen Hall event that took place on February 14th, which is, of course, Valentine's Day, featuring some prelude matches that will lead up. Don't forget, we do know Mina Shirakawa issued a challenge for the IWGP title. We also have, of course, Julia still dealing with Natsuko Tora, but she'll be in a six-woman tag team match and various other matches as well. Then we cap it up with some news updates to tell what is going on with the promotions with their recent events coming up. We're going to see who's booked, what matches are set, but also some interesting developments in the world of pro wrestling, such as, of course, a very disturbing factor about CML talent and AEW about their deal that they have. Apparently, there's more to was they're saying, and apparently a former WWE talent who's now been in TNA will serve as the head creative of TNA since Scott D'Amore was fired. Of course, a Tokyo Pro Wrestling wrestler will be out of action by some unusual circumstances that we did not know of, but it's still unclear what's going on. And then, of course, the president of Bushiroad speaks more on the situation with Rossy Ogawa once again. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews, not only from promotions here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos such as topics like the wrestlers themselves, the factions, promotions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate video by itself. We also do real timing news updates to keep you guys on alert what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. We also do the Nagasaki Watch and various other cool things as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool stuff as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on a like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, let's begin with our very first review, and that's going to be Stardom in Korakuen Hall, and this one took place recently on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. Now, our first match, we have, well, you cannot call it a bit of a showdown within God's Eye. You can call it more a master versus student type of match. We have the rookie Rana Yamagami taking on, of course, Mirai. Now, watching this match, I have to say it was a pretty good one because I often said this about Yagami from the very beginning, watching her, that I've always felt that she had that same kind of style that God's Eye always have. That they are always determined the into the whole fighting spirit style, and I think this brought out the best out of her. Even with Mirai, we know what type of person Mirai can be. She is strong, she's always determined, and I think this was her way of trying to see what Rana Yagami is all about, because you may never know who your teammates you may want to know, and I think that's a good thing. But unfortunately, it was Mirai with the Scorpion Deathlock that put her away to give her a very good win. Our next match, we have Yuna Mizumori versus Mai Sakurai. I have to say, this was a very interesting matchup. Now, not because, Mai Sakurai is a former member of the Cosmic Angels and you got the current member. I just never expected how this match was going to end, because we have seen over time Mai Sakurai has grown so much ever since Julia took her under her wing. But the very unusual, I don't know exactly what Mizumori did, but it looked more like, I don't know if you can call it a Mahastra, but it kind of looked like it. She picked up the win against Mai Sakurai, and this was a very interesting one. This is right before Mai Sakurai, who was trying to build momentum because she and Chanyota have the new Blood Tag Team titles coming up, and I think that was the main reasons. But I don't know if she lost focus or what. But I have to say, I don't know if it's an upset that Yuna Mizumori picked up the win, but it was a pretty good one, I have to say. Now, our next match, we have Lady C versus Utami Ayashira. Now, you can call this a showdown with the Queen's Quest if you want, but however, Lady C has been very frustrated about the recent losses. Now, I remember Micah used to criticize her for a long time that she could never pick up the wins. But if I know Utami Ayashira, she probably would want to see her, how do I say, come on, throw everything at me. So I think that's what she would do. But however, this match ended with Hayashida applying a German suplex to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we have Oedo Tai consisting of Fukigen Death, Raka, and Rina taking on Queen's Quest, Miyu Amasaki, Azumi, and Sayakami Tani. Now, nothing significant about this, but however, I have noticed something about like towards the end of this match. Now, as you know, Rina is the current future of Stardom champion, but there is a rookie in Queen's Quest. Well, I think she might have been a rookie for almost 2 years, but however, she has made her goal before to challenge for the future belt. But if she defeats Rina, she could get an opportunity of that belt. But unfortunately, it was the diving knee drop by Rina to Amasaki to pick up the win. I'm sure Rina would not want someone to rain on her parade, even if that person is Ama- Amasaki. But yeah, that's how it plays out. Now, our next match, we have God's Eye consistent of Saki Kashima, Ami Suri, and Shuri taking on the Cosmic Angels, Sayaka Kurara, Tam Nakano, and Sayuri Onoi. Now, this is the first time. Now, keep in mind, for the record, Sayaka Kurara is not a full-fledged member yet, but they're calling her the apprentice because she is still on a learning curve. And this is something that, of course, Yuna Mizumori mentioned, because at times we have seen how they need to see what they're made of to show their improvements to Cosmic Angels. This is something that they have talked about, because in the past, if you guys remember, we had Masakurai who joined, and of course, this resulted of her to betray the Cosmic Angels to join DDM and all this other that, and of course, dealing with Waka who couldn't pick up a win whatsoever. But I think this could help them to help who's going to be an apprentice to learn from it. But I have to say, I've been impressed with Sayaka Kurara, despite the fact that she's a rookie. She has a very strong spear. I mean, she already applied it with Tam, but she did try to apply that with Suri, but unfortunately, she ended up in a sleeper hold, and of course, that match was over. I don't know what Shooty said to her, but I think she's very impressed by her that she may have that fighting spirit. We know that Kurara has been frustrated with losses, and not to mention seeing her other rookie mates joining their units. And I think that sort of thing had bothered her. But now that she's with the Cosmic Angels, I'm sure she'll learn how to be stronger and all this other stuff. Now, our next match is a 10-woman elimination tag match. We have stars consistent of Mayu Iwatani, Azuki, Hanan, Saya Ida, and Yuzuki taking on Empress Nexus Venus, consistent of Maika, Mina Shirakawa, Xena, uh, Waka, and Hanako. Now, keep in mind in this particular match, there is a bit of a not an there's like certain factors within the two groups. Now we do know that Waka and Hanako had made a play for the New Blood Tag Team titles. However, Saya Ida looks at Waka as you that her and Hanako hasn't proven enough to show that they earned the right to challenge them and that sort of thing. But we also know that Mina Shirakawa issued a challenge for the IWGP Women's title. So that kind of plays out. But I can tell you that this match, how it ended, it was the most surprising moment. Mina Shirakawa pinned Mayu Iwatani when she applied the figure four driver, and that was it right there. This was the most stunning. Now, keep in mind for the record, Mina has never beaten Mayu Iwatani in singles competition before. I mean, tag team, not a much of a big deal. Now, the promo was the best moment ever. Mina Shirakawa has declared that she has chills and she knows she's going to figure out ways to dismantle. She feels that Stardom cannot entrust someone with Mayu Iwatani who is weak at her point. You know, we know that she's not in a good place due to the fact of Rossy Ogawa, but Mayu Iwatani said something that was true. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to feel even the icon. It's like she's saying, I'm not perfect. My Mina doesn't believe that, but I want to point out something about Mayu. It's not the first time Mayu has shown her weak side. She has been in those points before. I mean, look at the people who betrayed her, you know, like Io Shirai, Momo Watanabe, Saki Kashima, and of course, Starlight Kid and Fukigen Death snatched away from her by Odo Tai. She has been in dark places in her career, but that did not stop her from becoming the icon, no matter what people say. Mina thinks that, you know, it's the end of the era. It's time for a new era to begin, and she feels that right now this has to end. But there are many people who do believe that Mayu Iwatani will overcome this. But as I said before, Mina has never defeated Mayu Iwatani in singles competition. Mayu did compliment her 2 years ago during a 5-star Grand Prix that she has grown up from then, but she did not beat her that time. So you ask yourself, will Mina beat her or will Mayu Iwatani? I would say Mayu will overcome what's happening right now with her. So we'll see where that leads us from there. Now, our main event, we have Oedo Tai, consisting of Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, and Natsuko Tora, taking on Crazy Stars, consisting of Suzuki, Mei Sita, and Julia. Now, Oedo Tai made the beeline to attack their opponents just like that. The match went into a nut job, but you can tell that Natsuko Tora is determined to beat Julia in any way possible. But however, Julia shown that she is strong when she applied a Northern Lights bomb, and that's pretty much what happened. Now, however, I am aware that Julia will put the New Japan Strong title on the line, and she's going to face Natsuko Tora. And this one, from what I'm hearing, is a no disqualification match. So it's going to be brutal. It's going to be a slobber knocker between those two. But we'll see how that rolls up. So I think that's it for now with Stardom. So let's move on with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Alright, New Japan Pro Wrestling presents more with CML Fantastica Mania 2024. This just took recently as well in Korakuen Hall. Now, our first match, we have, I hate these guys, the House of Torture, Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Sho. Now, Sho comes out with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, claiming that he's the champion. Nope, official record says it's El Desperado. I mean, this is what the problem. House of Torture, they're a bunch of losers who claim that they are the law and order. Yeah, my ass. But anyway, they're facing against Tiger Mask and Defunto. Now, you probably would think, okay, House of Torture, whenever they come to their matches, they use unnecessary tactics. And one of those unnecessary tactics is, of course, Sho distracting the referee. Then, of course, Kanemaru low blowing, then removing Tiger Mask, allowing for Sho to pull up a roll up. Yeah, with that little sinister, with that little smile on his face, thinking he got away with. Sooner or later, he's not gonna win the title, no matter what he thinks. But yes, but we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match, we have Francesco Akira teaming up with Okamura. They take on Dark Panther and Super Kokeshi Machine the second. Now, those who don't know who that is, Super Kokeshi Machine, some say that could be Tomoaki Honda, because Tomoaki Honda is supposed to be in this match, but he wasn't. Nobody knows where he was and all that. But I am familiar. But however, I have to say certain good aspects of this match was pretty good, because Dark Panther, I know who he is. He's second generation wrestler. He is the son of the legendary Blue Panther. Um, Amazing technical wrestler in CML. He picked up a lot of that aspect, but it was, of course, a nice drop kick that he applied onto Kimura to pick up the win. So, not bad right there. Next up, we have El Desperado teaming up with Briante Jr. They take on Kamaitachi and Tetsuya Naito. It's kind of weird. Now, there's something I want to point out. If you guys ever seen these matches with Kamaitachi, they always have one of those things where they mute the theme song, the theme song they use. But what they were using to cover it up is a very interesting one, where whenever Kamayachi comes out, you hear this. I'm like, where did that come from? And I failed to mention that on the first time I actually reviewed this one, but I was like, man, that's kind of interesting. I'm a musician. I should do something like that. Try to come up with music doing that sort of thing. But yes, but he teams up with Naito. Now, you probably would think this is going to be an interesting matchup because, of course, well, Naito, he does speak Spanish, but at the same time, he does have connections with CML from his early years. And I thought it was a pretty good one. But however, Kamitachi actually played the referee, saying that Briante Jr. low blowed him, but it wasn't true. And of course, trying to fake it out. But it was, of course, Kamitachi who was able to pick up an amazing pinfall onto Briante Jr. for the win. However, for a fact that Briante Jr. was not happy with the results, that he faked the entire match for that. But sooner or later, those two will cross paths. I don't know when, I don't know where. Now, our next match, we have Musashi teaming up with Ryuki Taguchi and Hichiseto. They take on Yo, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Atlantis Jr. So I was like a bit of surprise. Now, there was a moment where, of course, we see he applied the Paradise Lock on Taguchi, and then he put Musashi in a very position where his face is in Taguchi's ass. Yeah, that's right. He was like swinging him up, like back and forth, using his face up to Taguchi's ass, but it didn't do well. But it was with a submission on Taguchi to pick up the win when he removed Taguchi's mask, and that was it. From there, I thought it was very hilarious that he took off his mask. Next up, we have Trios Actions Máscara Dorada, Templario, and Místico. They take on Doiki, Soberano Jr., and Rocky Romero. Now, there's history, as you know, with Máscara Dorada, the second generation Máscara Dorada taking on Rocky Romero, since he was the one who defeated him for his title not too long ago, and of course with Místico. But however, this particular match ended in a disqualification thanks to Soberano Jr. What did he do again? By removing Templario's mask. Now, yes, there is a disqualification if you take off the wrestler's mask, and a rule that normally happens in Mexico. Normally, you don't see that here, but that's what happens from here on out. So it resulted, of course. Somebody has used this um, crossing the line. But yeah. So anyway, let's move on with our next two matches, which is part of the Interfaction Tag Team Tournament. This is the first round. First team we have Pegaso and Stigma taking on Magnus and Volador Jr. I have to say, pretty good match. I mean, I know Pegaso. I seen him in AAA back then when he was part of the Real Real something Fuerzas Real, which is like the real Air Force or something like that. Uh, but yeah, and then but I wasn't we weren't seeing too much high flying in case anybody asked, but it was of course what's his name, Magnus, who picked up the win when he pinned Stigma. So that led them to advance. So we'll see who'll be facing him later. But the next match involving that tournament, we have Stuka Jr. and Ultimo Guerrero. They take on the members of Lij, Bushi, and Titan. So you would think, okay, as you guys are New Japan fans, you would say, okay, Lij has us in the back because this is their house. I would agree with you on that. But of course, Ultimo Guerrero is very legendary. Those who don't know this, Ultimo Guerrero was one who trained Bandito. So yes, that would explain a few things for you guys. But it was a body splash by Stuka onto A2. Bushi the pickup to win. So I'm sure we will see more of this. But that's for another episode. So right now I think we're done with this one with New Japan. Let's move on with AEW Rampage. Okay, AEW Rampage. Our opening match is a no disqualification match. Sammy Guevara versus Jeff Hardy. So, this is a very important match for those who know this or not. But what I did like is what, of course, those who've been aware of Sammy Guevara's career, Jeff Hardy was one of his heroes because you might have noticed that he did a lot of the crazy stuff that Jeff Hardy would do. I mean, you could say that this is a good thing for him because he's facing one of his idols. But however, you know for a fact that this is something that Sammy has to overcome. He knows the capabilities that Jeff Hardy can do. We know what he's capable of. But oh my God, he did a swanton bomb right from the ladder, then landed on top of Jeff while he's in a table. But it only took a GTH to put him down once and for all. Of course, when the match was over, we thought that Sammy was going to have his moment, but that piece of garbage, Powerhouse Hobbs, along with that sneevling little weasel, that hypocrite, and of course, who I like to say he's the real narcissist, Don Callis showed up and rained on Sammy's parade. I'm sure Sammy will get even with them for what they caused, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, during an interview with Renee Paquette, as you know, Brian Cage is unhinged. He, as you know, has a problem with Hook, thinking that he sticked his nose where he didn't belong. He thinks that he knows Hook, that he doesn't belong there. Well, I think clearly Brian Cage doesn't know him too well. But I think Taz, who I have to say he's always been impartial with his former teammates, his former team, he knows Hook can take care of himself. But I'm sure he would disagree with Brian Cage towards Hook. But we'll see what happens until then. Now, as you know, with Private Party making their return back to AEW, well, with Mark Quinn returning, we knew for a fact once that happened that they were going to put the entire the entire AEW tag team division on notice. So it's no secret now that their goal is to reach for the AEW World Tag Team titles. So that means at the moment they will be probably paying attention towards Darby Allin and Sting facing off the Bucks and of course down at Revolution. So we'll see where that leads us from there on. Now, Renee Paquette was intending to do a interview with Ruby Soho because apparently she wanted to hear what Cool Hand Ange had to say, but she was interrupted by Saraya and Cameron and Harley Cameron. So it appears that she's not happy with what's been happening recently. So she doesn't trust them. But I don't know if Harley Cameron is a little cuckoo. She brought a spoon. Who brings a spoon? I mean, it's like they would say, don't bring a knife into a gunfight. And you can tell by Saraya's face, like, why did you bring a spoon? But yeah. Now, BCC, as you know, they put out not a warning, but more of a notice to anybody to step up against them. But they weren't expecting FTR to be that task. But we know that they will be seeing them again at some point. But we'll see. Now, our next match we had of good old Texas boys, the Von Erichs, Ross and Marshall Von Erich teaming up with Dustin Rhodes, which is interesting because we know that the Von Erichs and the Rhodes family have been across paths with each other in the past. I mean, we're talking about, of course, this is probably before Ross and Marshall's time, and of course during Dusty's time. So that symbolizes everything. They face us against guys like Shimbazi, Romero Cruz, and Hit. I don't know who they are, but I can tell you that this match ended pretty awesomely with, of course, the Von Erichs applied the Iron Claw and asked for Dustin Rhodes with, I forgot what he used, but it was over right from there. I would like to see this team once again. I mean, I feel like they can get cohesiveness, and not to mention, these guys are Texas boys. They ought to call themselves the Texas Boys or something like that. I don't know. But yeah. But anyway, once again, Renee Paquette does an interview with Tony Storm. Now, Renee Paquette wanted to hear Tony Storm's reaction, what Deonna Purrazzo said to her about what she called her. Now, of course, Tony Storm probably is not happy with it. But I feel bad for Mariah May. I mean, she was put in an awkward position when Tony Storm tried to put submission moves on her, like she thinks that she knows what she's doing. But you ask yourself, does she really think she knows what she's doing? I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. Now, our next match, I have to say this was an impressive match. Queen Aminata versus Anna Jay. Now, it's no secret these two have met before, but you ask yourself, okay, what's different this time? We have seen for many weeks Queen Aminata making her presence known, and she has put up some good matches, despite that there are those that she lost, despite those that she won. But this was a very good one. I mean, you would think a lot. Now, I have been a fan of Queen Aminata before she ever came to AEW, but it was very impressive. But the one thing that was crazy, we saw this in Ring of Honor. She headbutted Anna Jay to pick up the win. I was so impressed, and that was pretty much it. But however, right after AEW Rampage, it was later revealed that Queen Aminata is now officially all elite, and I think we all could be happy about it. And of course, if you guys saw that story about Queen Aminata, about her journey in that interview that Renee Paquette did, you should check it out. I'll try to put that interview in the description below when I get a chance. Hopefully, I can put it, but if not, I apologize. Now, our next interview with Renee Paquette, well, our next two. The first one is Willow Nightingale questions Hadaway about what happened, with her match with Sky Blue. Like, this was something that was not discussed. And Chris Sadlander playing the Peacemaker. Well, they're trying to resolve this, so we'll see what that goes down. Now, however, Ruby Soho and Cool Edge are once again talked, and it seems like he wanted to, of course, ask her out on late, and it's gonna happen. I think we're all gonna see what's gonna happen, but I'm sure Harley Cameron would try to sabotage it. That's something we could definitely see somewhere down the line, but who knows? But right now, let's move on with our last match, which is the main event. We have the Bang Bang Scissor Gang in the mix. Of course, we have Anthony Bowens, Max Caster, Billy Gunn, his sons Colton and Austin, and Jay Jay White taking on Dark Order's Uno, Silver, Reynolds, and members of what I like to call the Dickwads, Lethal, Jarrett, and Singh. Now, this is a very important match, not because it's something that we need to see. We need to see exactly, can both the Acclaim and the Bang Bang Gang can get along as a whole unit. And I think that's something that would put them through the test. And I think it says it all, because you may never know how they will coexist if they be in matches like this. And I have to say, there was some great moments. I have to say, when Satnam Singh had two guys in his hand, I think it was Colton that got him in the back of the head and knocked him out. And you can tell it was a pretty good one. But it was, of course, Daddy Ass with the famous sir onto Alex Reynolds to pick up the win. I said we need to see more of those matches with them. I mean, if they ever develop a 12-man tag team titles for these guys, I definitely say they would be the team that would do it. But yes, but that's my opinion. But that's what I would say. So I think that's pretty much it with AEW Rampage. Let's move on with NXT Level Up. Okay, so who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up? Let's find out now. There's only two matches that normally would do. Normally we would see three matches and an interview, but they decided to reduce it with two matches and an interview for this one. Our first match, we have Brooks Jensen versus Javon Evans. Now I don't know if I ever seen him, but if I have, then it must have been a while back. Who knows? But I'm surprised in this match they never mentioned about what happened on NXT, where he got into a confrontation with his former tag partner Josh Briggs after what happened last week when Briggs gave him a tough love attitude. So that did not play that was mentioned. But however, I think many of us are more curious to see what Brooks Jensen will do now that he is going solo since dissolving their team. I have to say he's doing okay. Not as better as what Briggs is doing, but I feel he's taking every step by step to grow further as much as possible. But he was able to apply a knee drop onto Evans and pick up the win. Now, before our next match, there was an interview with Kiana James and Izzy Dame over the fact that they will be dealing with Gigi Dolan. Now, Gigi Dolan may not be a wrestler of the newcomers that just walk in. I'm sure that they're going to try to find a ways to deal with it, but Izzy Dame was the one who was at the task to take her out. Now, of course, the fan favorite had to be Gigi Dolan, since we've seen what she can do and have some amazing matches. But of course, during this match, you were going to see, of course, what's her name, Kiana James, get involved and allowing for, of course, Izzy Dame to pick up the win by a pinfall, and that was pretty much over from there on out. So, as I said before, only two matches were assigned instead of three, but we'll see what happens next week for that. But right now, let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so Welcome to our news updates. So let's get started. Now, first things first, let's talk about some updates with the promotions from upcoming events and matches and all this other stuff. The first we're going to do is GCW. Now, as you know, in March we have the So Much Fun event. We have, of course, the Rich and the Powerful, consistent of Charles Mason and Richard Holiday. They take on Garbage Daddies, consistent of Cole Roderick and Alec Price. So I think this is going to be a very interesting match to enjoy. Now, as you know, we get closer and closer to Philly for WrestleMania week. Bloodsport 10 has been announced for more matches taking place. We have Matt Makowski taking on the Deaf Samurai Akira. I think I'm more curious about that match. And then, of course, we have Timothy Thatcher taking on Axel Fisher. I think that's the guy from who we saw uh, with Imperium and and others in WWE. But yes, but they also announced for a one night, 4 woman tournament event taking place. So this is I'm really curious about for a whole lot. Now, as you know, with the Philly thing continuing on, they announced for their upcoming event for the culture that takes place on the 5th of April. We have Billy Dixon taking on Darius Carter, and then of course, Man Like the Reese taking on Sunny Kiss. So that's going to be interesting. Now, Illinois promotion, DreamWave has announced for their upcoming event, Squared Circle Expo, the the newly crowned DreamWave Alternative Champion, Mustafa Ali, will be present. So I'm sure he probably will defend the belt, but it's still unclear who will be his opponent. Now, House of Glory will be making their way to Boston in May for, they didn't say the name of the event, but they announced for Hijo del Vikingo will be present. So that's going to be a good match to enjoy as well. Now, for some interesting developments, now you may or may have heard about the situation with the partnership with AEW and CML. Apparently, there were certain things that were mentioned. So this is what was I've been hearing about. Let me pull it up real quick for all of you so you guys can understand. Okay, this is what we were hearing. This is from Fightful Select. AEW sources claim that the report that the deal between CML and W is that no Mexican wrestlers can appear on the same shows as CML talent. It's outright false. They pointed out the commander appearing on January 1st, AEW, when the group of CML appeared. Penta was scheduled to be there on AEW programming this week, but it ended running into travel issues. It stated that CML talent is not supposed to be booked in angles or matches with AAA talent. So basically, they're saying that they're not allowed to be in the same television, but those are saying that as long as they're not booked in matches, that's the thing that, or story wise angle. That's the thing that we're saying, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting. But I think Wrestling Observer said something quite different. I'm not sure. Let me pull that up real quick as well. I know I have that one. Uh-huh. Yes, this is what they said. AEW deal with CML is that in any show CML talent appears on, no other Mexican wrestlers can appear. Doesn't matter if they work with AAA or not, or did in the past. Is no other Mexican wrestlers can appear. Some prior Mexican talent is mad that Tony Khan agreed to these terms, noting that AAA never made a deal like that. So basically, there's like a lot of conflicting reports regarding the talents. Now, if you guys are big fans of Lucha Libre, you should know that AAA and CMLL are rivals. They're from two rival countries. I mean, two rival companies in Mexico. They are the two top promotions in Japan. I mean, in Mexico, my bad. So I will be doing a discussion video about that when I get a lot of research involving what I have to say or talk about that's important. Now, as you know, with Scott Demore fired from TNA thanks to Anthem, apparently they announced that Tommy Dreamer is now been named as the head of TNA Creative. I would say it's a good thing, but I would have to say, will he measure up to what Scott Demore did? That's the thing that kind of brings it out into question. What do you guys think? You think he'll do good? I mean, not as better as Scott Demore. I think he'll do good, but not better as Scott D'Amore. But we'll see. Now, this is a very interesting development. If you guys remember recently, late December, we did hear that Hikari Noa was out on injury, and she and now Kakuta had to relinquish the Princess Tag Team titles. Now, however, it's now been reported saying that she suspended her daily activities with Up Girls and wrestling have been pulled into a halt. Now, the the case of the suspension is still unclear what is going on. We don't know what is this about or anything. I've been hearing the same thing from various sources, but yeah. But hopefully we'll find out more. But yeah. So we'll see what happens. Now, as you know, we continue with the story about Rossy Ogawa and all this and that about, being fired. Now, we heard from what Rossy Ogawa said, that he wasn't poaching, but to what Bushiroad president Taro Okada said, it was different. But this is what he had to say. I think this was during a what's it Tokyo Sports? Yeah, but anyway, this is what he had to say in regard of Ogawa. This decision was made after many meetings, after a careful consideration. When I took office in December, I heard from Ogawa that he wanted to quit. After that, there were rumors that Ogawa would poach Stardom talent and staff and establish a new promotion. But I took that story in a grain of salt. However, there were some wrestlers who consulted us saying, "I want to quit. I'm not sure whether to quit or not, and I'm worried about what will happen next." And I believe that some of the wrestlers may have approached us as an SOS, saying, "I want you to do something about it. I want to continue as before." The best option was for us to continue to grow together with Ogawa. However, Ogawa's intentions uh, and to leave the company did not change. Therefore, we decided to create a path for him to retire amicably in March. At the Takadonaba show on January 21st, Ogawa's retirement was announced to the wrestlers and staff. Since the negative behavior toward the company continues, so as a defensive measure, we decided to terminate the contract as soon as possible. However, the February 4th was the 13th anniversary show. First of all, we wanted to get that over with in order for the wrestlers to be able to match without any disturbance. We reported after the show. Notified the media cancellation of the contract on the 4th, requested information released at the noon following day, the 5th, after the company makes official announcement. One of the reasons to prevent confusion due to the articles appearing before the official announcements, due to the information from Ogawa and other sources. The other reason that we wanted people to get excited about matches first. We did not want to linger on the memory of the matches to drown out immediate after the show by the uproar. As a company, we needed to respond to is not the truth or circumstances, um, but the facts. What was true is the time we process encouraged Stardom wrestlers and staff to leave the company and create a new promotion. As the century of this was, executive producer who was under contract with Stardom, um, so we had no choice but to dismiss him. In the end, it's up to the individual wrestlers to decide, but we want all of them to renew their contracts. Even if there's something you don't agree with, it does not mean that you cannot take the wrestlers and establish a new promotion. At this time, Ogawa was being paid as a executive producer of Stardom. If something negative happens with the organization, he is responsible in the position and should work to resolve it, restoring the health, and he is the one who was able to do that. If you're going to move and establish a new promotion, it is after you have to leave the company, even if it's 100 steps. It's an act of betrayal for the company to move during one's tenure. Honestly, I don't like when there's dissension and a lot of turmoil. people think this is this is too pro wrestling, right? Or this is part of the fun pro wrestling. If you dismiss things that are not acceptable society, that's what pro wrestling it is. It will never spread there. In necessary, observe compliance and develop something extraordinary only with the ring. I feel that the industry as a whole needs to update sensibilities in regard. So, what does this thing tells us? So, in a perspective, they were understanding Ogawa leaving, but they were not okay with the idea that he was talking to these wrestlers while it's still in the contract. I think that's well established. But they thought what they were doing to dismiss them was the right call because they felt that him talking to this wrestler to the wrestlers was disrupting what they were doing. It's under I understand the aspect of what we're doing, but the real question is, to me, who's still gonna stay? That's the problem. We know the Tam announced that she's gonna stay. We know Micah's gonna stay. Um, we know Maya will stay because due to a long-term contract. But yes, so we'll see what happens until then. So that's pretty much it for what we have for our news updates. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode coming up. As you know, we have AEW Collision. However, we do have more with Fantastica Mania with New Japan and CML stars sharing the ring. Um, I yet to see two new shows that it just recently came out. Um, one from Oz Academy, one from Noah, and I think we got the second day of Korakuen Hall as well. But we will see what happens until then. But for now, this is what we're gonna do. I do know. Oh yeah, and I forgot we do have the latest Got to Move show and a self-produced show by BGI in Gleet. So I will figure things out as we go, decide which ones I want to do. Collision is on the top priority, but we will see from there on. I think that's pretty much it. So we will see what happens. But as of right now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.